loved him in Boardwalk Empire as Narcisse, The Hunger Games, the James Bond films, Ollie, which I definitely want to speak to this man about. He's in Westworld, Sundays at 9 Eastern Time on HBO. Jeffrey Wright, good to see you,
Good to see you,
sir. Man, oh man, we'll talk about Westworld in a second, but I want to talk DC sports with you. Is that where you are? That's where you're from.
Born and reared.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took in your first sporting events in the old RFK.
I was born and raised in RFK Stadium. Yeah. My mom had season tickets to the Redskins from 1971, I think. The first time I went to the stadium was a Senators game, 1968, if I'm not mistaken. And, I was a crazy sports fan. Anything with a ball attracted me, from a very early age. I remember going to the stadium with my godfather, and I remember coming home and telling my mom, wow, Frank Howard slid into second, and he went under the dirt and came back. I was just so mesmerized by what I was seeing, the dust flying. And It's still one of the greatest thrills for me is going into a stadium, walking up the stairs and seeing the green of the field. It's just
anywhere.
Anywhere. I just get, I just tingle when I see that.
Well,
but RFK was a magical place.
Well, a friend of mine once took me to a Cowboys-Redskins game at RFK, and in his family seats, because nobody was buying single-game tickets.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
Right? Everybody's seats were family seats, or they
passed down.
No question.
Yeah, in the will.
They were right.
Yeah.
They were 2 rows from the edge of the upper deck.
Mm-hmm.
There were just 2 decks,
Mm-hmm.
so we were in the second deck, 2 rows. And we were it hung over the end zone. To see anything in the back of the end zone, we had to stand up and lean over.
Yeah.
And I remember when the Redskins took the lead, the place shook.
Yeah.
Literally.
It bounced.
Bounced.
Yeah. Well, it was such an intimate space, as you described. There were only 2 levels, only 54,000 people, tight, packed, shaking. And it had such a wonderful feel about it. Because it was in Southeast D.C., where I grew up, which was kind of the place that most folks only went to for a Redskins game.
Yeah.
But you had everyone in the D.C. community gathering on Sundays to watch that team play, and it was just a special environment. You had a little jazz band playing in the corner. Da, 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 da. Had a very subtle, class to it, and. I've been to the new stadium once.
Mm-hmm.
Won't go back.
Why?
Just because it's cold. It's out in the suburbs. DC at RFK, 2 levels divided by one ring, and that's where the players were listed. That Ring of Fame.
Sure.
You had Larry Brown, Jurgensen, all of those guys listed there. Go to the new stadium. I think it has 3 tiers, and in between those rings, you have the first ring is FedEx and advertising and all of this stuff. The top ring is where the players are listed. So for me, it speaks to a hierarchy, what the experience is about. It's not about those guys on the field. It's about the commercial aspects of it. And it's just the feel of it is just off to me. It's cold. Cops are staring at you. The one game I went, as opposed to at RFK Stadium, the cops were watching the game. You're like, hey, man.
Well, I guess it was different times back then, no doubt about that.
Yeah, totally.
But so who was your guy growing up?
Who's my guy?
Yeah.
My guy was Larry Brown. Larry Brown, he was just this thrashing, daring, just beautiful play. He was just a beautiful athlete, and he just gave it everything he had every time he touched that ball, every time he touched the field.
So are you through with the Redskins, or are you? Because I know you don't live in the D.C. area.
I don't. I live in Brooklyn now.
So you're a Jet Giant? Have you?
Nah, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Can't do that.
I used to cry when the Redskins lost, but it's a tough organization to get behind now. It's been 20 years of incompetence, 20 years of failure. And we as fans invest our money. My mom still got season tickets. We invest our emotions. And in return, as far as the team, as the organization goes, we've got 20 years of disappointment, and it's a team that was a storied organization. Had great success. 3 Super Bowls. Doug Williams leading the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and it's just been a diminishment of that. I feel in some ways my childhood has been stolen from me, because you just look at it, just confusion, one failure, one after another. The RG3 thing, the way that that played out. Actually, I did go back. I went to another game when RG3 was played the game. He got knocked out against the Falcons.
Yeah, which one? I was about to say which you could name about 5 games that he got knocked out of.
Well, that one was rough. But he brought that energy back to DC, and he was running to the ground. Whether he had something to do with that, whether he couldn't be managed properly, I think it's the responsibility of the coach. It's the responsibility of the organization to manage that situation. If I had been coach at that time, the first time he got knocked out of a game, every time he touched a ball in practice that following week, he would have slid. I don't care if he was handing the ball off and just sitting in the backfield, he would have slid every time he got that ball.
When it all comes down to it, I think when we look back on the RG3 years, I guess, he's got some fingerprints on it too.
No, there's no question about it. But my point is, coaching is about leadership. Mm-hmm. And you've got a player who thinks he can do anything. You want that player to think he can do anything. But at the same time, you have to have the strength of leadership to manage that talent. And that's the way it goes. I think Vince Lombardi would have set him straight, would have put him in the right position to protect himself and lead the team on in a way that that didn't end in his crumbling at the end of the season.
Let's take a 60-second break. Back with Jeffrey Wright. We'll talk some Westworld. I want to talk about your role in the film Ollie. I loved you in Boardwalk Empire. I want to know so much about your career, and of course Westworld on HBO, red hot show, Sunday night, at 9 Eastern time. We're back on this Wednesday show with Jeffrey Wright. Josh Rosen also still to come. Hey, Jeffrey Wright of Westworld is here. Ask the poll question based on some of the NBA action last night, Chris Brockman.
Yeah, who do you guys most want to see throw down, go toe-to-toe? Draymond Green versus Charles Barkley.
Because Barkley said he wanted to someone needs to knock Draymond Green's lights out.
Yes.
Okay, that happened last
Kendrick
night.
Perkins versus Drake.
Drake and Kendrick Perkins got involved. Former player, now current Cleveland assistant, right?
I guess.
Would you say? Okay.
And Ken Giles versus his own face.
Yeah. The reliever who gave up the home run last night and punched himself in the face.
That was tremendous.
What would you vote for? What would you want to see face off, Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah, the punching oneself in the face thing probably going to end in a draw.
Yeah. Is that method acting? Do you need? What did you say?
No, that's not.
Well, he performs his own stunts, Ken Giles.
Apparently,
obviously.
Yeah.
There it is. I'm sure unless you didn't see it, he punched himself in the face and threw stuff last night.
At least he didn't hit himself in the head with the bat.
At
least he threw the bat
right
down into the dugout. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a bit.
Draymond versus Charles, is that leading
the
poll?
He probably needs to be reprogrammed.
Draymond versus Charles.
Yeah.
46% right now.
Okay. Draymond versus
Chuck, yeah.
Okay.
Barkley?
Yeah, Barkley.
Barkley's getting up there. I don't know.
I think maybe that's why people want to see it.
Maybe.
Drake. Do you think Drake would actually drop gloves with Kendrick Perkins?
Drake's pretty jacked. I don't think anyone wants to mess with Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah. No.
Not so much.
No, this is not an act.
No.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your career. What was the first thing that you did? How did you break into the business, Jeffrey?
The first thing that I did was children's theater in D.C. When I got out of college, doing folk history or history through folk tales for kids in the D.C. metropolitan area. But in some ways that was my big break. People ask me that, what was your big break? Your big break is the first time you get on stage and nobody, hits you in the head with a baseball. And they say, oh, that's pretty good. And one thing leads to another. So I left D.C., I went to New York, went to NYU, quit after a couple of months. That was grad school, and then I came back and just started doing theater. Did theater for about 7 years until I wound up in Angels in America on Broadway, and that was when I finally said to myself, after 7 years of doing this, you're an actor. First big film role, I guess, was Basquiat, 1996, something like that. But going back, I did have a performance at RFK, 1972, October 22nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Redskins, Cowboys. I was the official mascot for the game. Ran out onto the field.
What?
Hey, Jeffrey Wright, I'm 6, 7 years old, and I ran out in, my Redskin uniform and sat at the end of the end zone and watched the game.
With Tom Landry on the sideline?
Landry, Allen on the other side. Yeah, it was because there was a department store, the Heck Company. Put your name in the box. I was with my aunt when I was I'll put mine outside. Put your name in the box. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call saying they'd picked my name out of the thing. And, I was over the moon. That was one of my first big performance
And then
breaks.
22 years later, you got a Tony.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
the way it works. We can draw a line from Landry to Tony.
That's right.
There.
Allen.
Allen.
Okay, come on.
George Allen. By the way, the most superstitious coach that Steve Sable told me he ever came across. George Allen.
Yeah.
Where they mic'd him up for NFL films after years of him refusing to do it. And it might have, can you look up if that was the game?
Huh.
They mic'd him up against the Cowboys, and
Wow.
the Cowboys were killing him like 10-0 at halftime.
What was the date again?
October 22nd, 1972. Redskins won 24 to no 4. Oh, wow. Redskins won.
All I know is that it was a Cowboys-Redskins game, and then Allen was accused of, or was reported that he ran back into the dugout or area, because that was where in RFK you go into the dugout to go to the locker room.
Right.
That he got sick and he had to run out. But instead, he wasn't sick. He ran out to rip all the microphones off him because
they
thought
were
it was
spying on him.
No, he thought it was superstitious. He thought it was bad luck because it was something outside of what he normally would do coaching a game.
It was draining his life essence.
Gee, yes. Maybe that was the
Redskins won 24-20. Cowboys led 13-7 at the half.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that game, but we try to connect the dots.
It was 13-0 at one point.
So, Ollie, did you ever meet Howard Bingham, who you played?
I did, absolutely.
What was that like?
It was fantastic.
The official photographer, I guess, his best friend of Ollie for all those years?
Howard and I spent a lot of time together because obviously I wanted to understand, him, and I wanted to find him.
Sounds just like him.
That was him.
Yeah.
So spent a lot of time with him. Howard is like the Black Zelig. He was everywhere.
He was.
Knew everyone. He was even on the airplane. He even testified during the OJ trial because he was on the airplane.
That OJ left town, right?
Yeah, he wasn't in the Bronco, but he was on the. So Howard was just an incredible guy, and of course, the reason I took the part was because it was Ollie's story. And I wanted to have a chance to meet Ollie and hang out with him. And we were also shooting in Africa. We shot in Mozambique. And I wanted to do that and achieved all of that. And Howard introduced me to Ollie. And I spent a lot of time with him. And that was just like, I was a little boy all over again. Ollie was manhood to me as a kid, just heroic beyond measure. And I got to do a number of things with him. I got to do some mundane things with him. We were down in Miami. Howard said, hey, Jeffrey, you want to go pick up Ollie from the airport? I'm like, yeah. Oh, no, I'm not doing it. What am I going to do? Hang out here in the hotel room? Yeah. So we go down to the airport and we pick up Ollie, and I'll never forget it. Standing there, and Ollie's waiting by the conveyor belt, for his bag. And he's just standing there waiting for his bag. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, man, this is the most incredible thing. Just seeing Ollie just doing the ordinary things, man. Yeah, just to have that intimacy with him was incredible. The first time I met him, though, we had dinner together, Lower Manhattan. After dinner, we drove up 8th Avenue. He was dropping the ball New Year's. I guess this was 2000 to 2001, perhaps.
Well, Ollie came out in 2001, so maybe it was 2000. Or,
It was,
or
yeah.
that year of.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, 2000, 2001. So, so we drive up 8th Avenue, and I'm sitting behind him. My wife at the time was next to me. Ollie's wife was in the back. He was in front. There was a Russian cab driver. And Ollie's, had these questions about his, his mental capacity. And Ollie's going, so what about Khrushchev? What do you think about Khrushchev? And the guy's going, well, Khrushchev was a strong leader. We liked Khrushchev. He was strong. Well, what about Brezhnev? What do you think of him? Well, Brezhnev was a good leader, but not like Khrushchev. He was having this conversation with Russian heads of state. We're going up 8th Avenue, and we pass Madison Square Garden. And I say to my wife, I'm like, Carmen, that's Ollie, Madison Square Garden.
That's it.
And I'm going, holy. And I said, Ollie, Madison Square Garden. He said, yeah, I did some work in there. And it was just like the most incredible thing.
That is
most incredible
awesome,
cab
man.
ride I will ever have in my life.
Well, you've had an incredible ride, figuratively and literally, in your career. Before we go, Westworld. We had Jonathan Tucker here earlier this week. He said his scripts are redacted to make sure that there are no spoilers, even in the minds of the actors and actresses.
Yeah.
Are your scripts redacted?
No. However,
The Westworld hierarchy.
Well, yeah, I guess so. However, in the first maybe 4 or 5 weeks of filming season 2, I shot, because of logistical reasons, I shot scenes from 7 or 8 episodes. 6 or 7 of those I had not read fully. So they were kind of redacted in that way. And then I got my script, I got my scenes. It's like, okay, we're doing this. And I'd ask 1,000 questions to figure out the context, do it. And then I might, hop in my car and drive up to 5 in my Bernard costume and go to the next unit, because we got a couple units going on at the same time. I'd get another script, another scene from another script that I hadn't fully read. It was just, it's pretty wild, It's a game of benevolent chaos that we play with that thing.
So, were you aware that your character was a host?
A what? He is?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Come on.
I didn't even see. I'd heard a rumor, but I haven't gotten to that episode. No, I'm talking nonsense.
Well, I mean-
yeah, I did. I was aware after the pilot. I didn't know during the pilot. I just thought he was kind of ordinary, everyman Bernard, going about his thing, doing, spinning his hamster wheel and, and working away there. And then I came back when we got picked up, and we started to shoot the second episode. Lisa Joy, who's the co-lead writer of the show and the wife of Jonah Nolan, sat me down and told me that Bernard is not the man that he thinks he is, And it blew my mind. But at the same time, it was really exciting because it gave us a lot more layers to explore and and some secrets to keep. And
But that's a
things like
season 1. I'm not giving anything away from season 2.
No, I'm being silly.
No, I'm talking to him over there because we have a rule here, Jeffrey. It's a 24-hour
I'm just messing.
DVR
It's
rule
all
right there. Like
Yeah.
if you snooze, you lose.
Yeah, if you haven't
Right?
caught up, to episode what was it, 7 now, season 1, then come on.
That's it.
What
What are we doing
What are
here?
we gonna do for
Then
you?
what are we doing?
What are we gonna do?
Jeffrey, I could talk to you all day, but I know you got to run. And Josh Rosen and Johnny Damon are joining me in hour number 3. Please come back, will you
Cool.
please?
Maybe we'll get into that whole since we talked about them, that whole name thing with the Redskins. I think
You mean the Washington part?
you know what I mean.
The Washington football team?
Yeah.
Good
Well,
to see you here, Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me.
You got it at JFreeWright on Twitter. Follow him. I
That's
do.
me.
And Jeffrey Wright on Westwood every Sunday at
Westworld.
9. You know what?
You did it again. You did that
Did
yesterday.
I
That's
do
right.
it? Because I got Rosen on the brain.
I know.
did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in Westwood last night.
Rose is going to be here. That's hot, man.
Westworld at 9 p.m. Eastern on HBO. Damn it, I almost
us.
got out of this whole conversation without doing that. Westworld, 9 p.m. on HBO. Great to see you, Jeffrey.
Cool, thank you.
You got it.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.